From France now, polling begins in France for the fourth time in 2 months as French citizens vote for the second phase of the legislative polls. 48.5 million voters have registered to cast a ballot in 572 runoff races across the country, with 289 here being the golden number that the parties need to win an absolute majority. Ensemble coalition, it's engaged in a direct face-off with the NUPES coalition here, with President Emmanuel Macron leading the Ensemble and leftist flag-bearer Jean-Luc Mélenchon guiding the NUPES. According to the latest opinion polls, Macron's coalition, it is on track to emerge as the largest party in polls. But for the first time in 25 years, reaching an absolute majority, it is going to be a real challenge for the French president sides. Now, polls are predicting that the coalition winning anywhere between 255 to 305 seats, while Mélenchon's NUPES, it is projected to win anywhere between 140 to 200 seats. In the tightly run-off race, both parties secured around 26% of the national votes in the first round of elections, and for President Macron, this win, that is of major consequence. If his party forms a majority in the assembly, he will be able to implement the policies that he promised during the elections. This includes increasing the retirement age above 60, tax cuts. President Macron will then also have to appoint him as Prime Minister of the nation, leading to a situation called cohabitation. On the contrary, Mélenchon's policies include lowering the retirement age to 60, increasing the minimum wage. He has also urged voters to enable him to secure a majority in the parliament. Mélenchon's party has also employed several young and diverse leaders. During the first phase of the polling, last Sunday, over 53% of the registered voters abstained. Now, this abstention rate beat France's previous record for the first round of parliamentary polls set in 2017. How turnout evolves in the second round, that is of course going to be a crucial factor here. What is interesting here is that abstention doesn't cut into votes cast for each party in the same way. As per experts, low voter turnout tends to work in favor of Macron in this particular situation. And his challengers, they are more vulnerable to turnout concerns. As they're younger, more working class support tends to turn up in lower proportions in the ballot box. And it is also critical for the NUPES alliance that those who abstained last weekend come to the polling booths. The ongoing heat wave, that is also a major factor impacting voter turnout. Weather Service has warned that mercury is slated to climb between 35 to 40 degrees Celsius, while southwest and central France might also witness temperatures ranging between 40 to 42 degrees Celsius. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by our correspondent Ross Cullen, who's joining us live from Paris. Thank you for joining us, Ross. We know that chances of an absolute majority, they're looking bleak. What can you tell us about the poll prediction so far?
Yes, they are not favouring Emmanuel Macron getting a majority. The final polls, which were released on Friday before the day of consideration, which is on Saturday, showing that more or less neck and neck again, as we had in the first round. The super coalition, this huge new alliance on the left made up of the Communists France Unbowed, which is a far left party, the Green Party, the Socialist Party, all have agreed to field only one candidate per constituency. That big bloc on the left looks to be emerging as the main challenger to Emmanuel Macron. The centre-right Republicans, the far-right National Rally, not positioning themselves to be in the top two. It does seem that it's going to be the NUPES coalition and the Ensemble coalition of Macron's parties and allies. One of those groups will emerge as the biggest party, but will they be able to cross the threshold of 289 seats? The election that's going on last weekend and this weekend is for all 577 French MPs in the lower house of Parliament, the National Assembly, and control of that Parliament is crucial if you want to be able to pass your legislative agenda.
Absolutely. Now, in case of cohabitation, we know that Mélenchon's domestic policies, they're in stark contrast with Macron's. What can we expect in such a scenario?
Well, we should look at cohabitation as well, just for the viewers. This is a rare example of where the president and the Prime Minister come from different parties. We have had that in the past. That has, when you get a number of MPs from, for example, the left and a Prime Minister then appointed from the left having to work under a President from the right. So this time we have a centrist President and Jean-Luc Mélenchon, the far left leader, who's leading that big alliance on the left. He has positioned himself saying that if we are the largest party, we cannot be denied. I will have to be appointed as Prime Minister, having a far left Prime Minister serving under a centrist President of Emmanuel Macron. So that is a real possibility, cohabitation, if these polls are to be believed, and if Jean-Luc Mélenchon can guide his far left party to be the biggest alliance in Parliament.
Right, and now another issue here that has emerged is a voter turnout. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, that has been very low in the presidential election in the 2 months ago in April, and then in the first round on the 12th of June, and today, the 19th of June, for the general election. We have been seeing low turnout. There has been apathy in some members on the left. They have believed, once we knew that the runoff in the presidential election was going to be, again, a repeat of 2017 with the centrist Macron versus far-right Marine Le Pen, as it was in 2017. 5 years later, nothing had changed. Those two, again, were the two leading candidates to get through to the runoff in the presidential election. That dismayed a lot of voters on the left, young voters, green-minded voters, socialist-minded voters, and there are fears among some on the left that perhaps those voters didn't want to turn out again for this general election when you're voting for your local MP. The heat wave that you did mention has certainly impacted a lot of France this weekend. We are seeing cooler temperatures and a lot of rain today, which in its own way could put off a lot of people perhaps going to the polling stations. But yeah, temperatures on Saturday in some parts of the country hitting 42 degrees.
Right. All right, Ross, thank you so much for bringing us all the updates on this. We will, of course, continue to monitor this very closely. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.